Thank you for joining us today. My name is Brock Chavis. I serve the United Pentecostal Church as the Director of Multicultural Ministries. My guest today is Pastor Ernest Martinez. I'm very thankful to have him here with us in the UPCI Media Center. And we are videoing today a short recording in a series that we're calling Multicultural Stories. Pastor Martinez is the pastor of Landmark Family Church in Maryland Heights, Missouri. He is an at-large representative of the Multicultural Ministries Executive Administrative Committee. He is the camp meeting coordinator for Missouri District and also a sectional representative for the Missouri District North American Missions Team. He and his wife have been in this community for quite some time now. His wife is well known in the area. She is the founder and creator of the Gingerbraid. Her name is Nicole, and Sister Martinez, her Gingerbraid company, provides modern clothing for ladies from teenage to adulthood, and she has a very thriving business, and many of our apostolic women are being blessed by that. Brother Martinez, I'm thankful to have you joining me today for this series. Welcome to this show.
Thank you, Brother Chavis. It's a privilege to be here, and I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Thank you very much. Well, to give some of you who are watching a background, we're calling this series Multicultural Stories. A number of weeks ago, I felt impressed of the Lord that in the times that we're facing right now, we are seeing social unrest. We are seeing a lot of fear in the community dealing with COVID-19 and fear that's very much warranted, I would say. But we are in a time where the church, the people of God, we're having questions about how to address the matters of our society right now. I felt impressed of the Lord that in this time, perhaps hearing the voices of people from our fellowship could even be more helpful than seminars and teaching and training, which I'm a big advocate of. But I just felt the Lord really say to me, let's share the stories of people of the UPCI, people who are a part of our fellowship, hear their voices, hear their experiences, and most of all, hear their perspectives in times like these. So I'm very thankful to have Pastor Martinez with us today. And why don't we begin, Brother Martinez, just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then just take some liberty and tell us your story.
Very good. I'm the oldest of 4 children, 43. I grew up in California. My dad pastored there. Dad started a church in the state of Washington, state of California. We started this church together here in Missouri, and now he pastors in Milwaukee. And I've, in addition to this, I'd started a daughter work in Illinois, a Spanish-speaking daughter work. So I have 3 siblings, and the reason I'm mentioning that's why it's so important, is the fact that we grew up in a very multicultural home, in the sense that growing up in the state of California, going to school with 40 plus cultures, trying different foods, our friends, it was just very natural, very normal for us to have friends of different nationalities. That's what our parents taught us. We did speak English in the home, but we also spoke Spanish. And then, because of that, that's sort of what has molded me into the person I am today. I am married to Nicole. We've been married for over 16 years. We've got 3 children. And we do love St. Louis because of the opportunity. As I mentioned, I grew up in a preacher's home and a pastor's home, and so I am doing what God called me to do and God created me to do, and that is to lead in these times. And God has been very good to us. There have always been challenges growing up in a pastor's home, but it's been worth it. Ended up in St. Louis. Dad moved to St. Louis in 2000 to translate all of the Word of Flame materials, the Sunday school materials, into Spanish. He was the editor for that, working alongside Brother Richard Davis and Brother P.D. Buford. He did that in 2000, and so shortly after that, I decided to move here, and that's how we ended up here. Being a bilingual person, I have always found a career being able to use my language, and it's given me a great perspective. It's built a bridge for me. I've been able to work in between different cultures because of the language, and trying to understand people's perspective. And so naturally it's been part of the ministry. I can preach in both languages. I've interpreted. I can do all that. As far as my story, got into the ministry at a young age, but didn't really spread my wings until I was about 22. And I took my first role at a church, learned a lot of things, and then after that, of course, going to Illinois and then coming back here. So we love the ministry, we love the opportunity, and we love what the United Pentecostal Church is doing. I'm grateful that the United Pentecostal Church is making an effort to reach everybody, other cultures. I'm grateful for that. I'm very, very proud of that. If you could be proud as a Christian, I'm grateful for that vision, and I do believe that is the key to our growth as a movement, and especially as this organization. When I think about where God has brought me from, truly I'm grateful for the opportunity. But God has lifted up us for this moment, for this time. We are experiencing hunger from people that have come from other parts of the world to our country. We are missionaries within our own borders. And so I'm grateful for that. That's a long answer, and I told you I'd be giving you a long answer, so I'm sure more will come out after that.
That's very good. Now, in my previous discussions with you and anybody who knows you, they're going to find very quickly that you have a passion for the city of St. Louis.
Yes.
And of course, you pastor in Maryland Heights, which is very close to the St. Louis boundary. Many people would consider it St. Louis area. Of course, it is. But tell us a little bit about that. Why you feel so passionate about the city of St. Louis, and just share your thoughts on that.
I'm not a St. Louis native. Never thought I'd live here, but here we are. St. Louis is a city with a great need, the city of St. Louis. And right now we are in the county. So in the St. Louis metro area, you have the city of St. Louis, which is the largest city, and then the St. Louis County wraps around it, and then beyond that you have St. Charles County, and you have Jefferson County, and there's some other counties, Lincoln County and others that are close by. So the city is sort of on its own next to the Mississippi River. There's a lot of history in the city. The World's Fair was here in the early 1900s. There's a lot of Pentecostal history. Of course, the merger was done here, but there have been great revivals even before the merger. There have been great moves of God in the city, and then it's poured out into the county. And so a lot of the churches that are in the county came because of something that happened in the city. So there's great history in the city. And more than that, there's a great need. You've got so many cultures. We have the second largest Bosnian population in the world.
Wow.
We have a very growing Ethiopian population. There is a small but growing Somalian population. The Burmese, it's a small population, but it's still growing. The largest minority population, I guess, would be the Hispanics. I've seen numbers anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000 within that area. So there's just a lot of opportunity. St. Louis has its challenges. What it's famous for crime. Usually it's number one as crime and murder capital per capita. So, a lot of people are intimidated by that. That's this very small portion of the city, but the city has got a lot of history, beautiful buildings, beautiful neighborhoods. But it's a city that unfortunately has been hurt. It's a wounded city. And so I feel a great burden. I believe what God is doing with us now is to set us up so that we can reach into the city. He's preparing us. He's creating a beachhead. He's creating a starting point. St. Louis is also the third fastest growing immigrant city in the nation. Now, I never would have thought that. Right. The city of St. Louis. And it's really a different world, because when you leave the county of St. Louis, it's not like the city of St. Louis. When you go to St. Charles County, the rest of the metro area, it's so different. So within the metro area, you've got all diversity in between communities and then diversity in between cultures. And so there's almost like a Macedonian call, I believe, that is reaching. And my prayer is that the Lord would help us to reach that city. We will reach that city in my lifetime.
Amen.
It's going to happen. And then, of course, we've just got, St. Louis is the #1 destination for cheapskates. That means that you can have a vacation in St. Louis for really cheap. You can go to the zoo for free. All the museums are free.
Right.
You've got Six Flags, which is relatively cheap for a Six Flags. Great hotels, great food. We've got some of the best Asian food in the world right here. I grew up close to San Francisco, so I love Chinese food, and just a great opportunity. It's an untapped resource of so much blessing. NYC was here last year, and it moved the city of St. Louis. The city of St. Louis has not been the same since. And our churches on the outlying areas have benefited from that. But there is a great need, and I'm a huge fan of the city of St. Louis. And I am praying that God would not only send me, but that He would bring others so we can work together and we can reach the community.
I thank God for this discussion. I thank God as we move forward sharing these perspectives. I have guarded myself because I know that as we go forward, this is the second Multicultural Stories in the series that we've recorded now. I know as we go forward, as things are being shared, not everybody will agree, and that's fine. We can disagree on certain things and still remain brothers. We disagree respectfully. But there are perspectives that are going to be shared that not everybody understands or relates to. But what I'm simply promoting through this series, that these are our stories. Mm-hmm. This is the story of the United Pentecostal Church. We are different in culture. We are different many times in our backgrounds. And we are different in the cultural beliefs or the cultural things that have molded us and shaped us in our lives. But when we come into the United Pentecostal Church, we are going into another culture. We are coming into a biblical culture that we would describe as an apostolic or oneness Pentecostal biblical culture. And as part of that, we cannot check our need to win the world at the door.
Right.
So we have to understand what's going on in our communities. We may have to educate ourselves better on how to deal with cultures and how to overcome and how to speak in times of social unrest. But these things are necessary to our mission and our mandate to reach our world and to involve our congregations in ministering to our community. But we can do this. And I'm praying that these perspectives will help and be a blessing. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us today, Pastor
Yes, sir.
Martinez.
Thank you.
And your words have been such a blessing. And so thank you all for watching. These are Multicultural Stories, and we pray that they will be of benefit to you. God bless you.